A right is inherent, a privilege is granted. This distinction is paramount when discussing the Second Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is not a privilege bestowed by the government. It is a pre-existing right enshrined in the Constitution. Equating firearm ownership to driving, a privilege regulated by the state, is fundamentally flawed. Driving is not a right. It is a privilege subject to government regulation. This distinction is crucial. The Constitution recognizes and protects certain inalienable rights. The Second Amendment protects the right of individuals to own and use firearms. This right is absolute. It cannot be treated like a privilege. Confusing rights with privileges undermines the very foundation of American liberty. We must remain vigilant in defending our rights, especially those enshrined in the Bill of Rights. The Second Amendment clearly states a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This language is unambiguous and leaves no room for misinterpretation. The Founding Fathers recognized the importance of a well-armed citizenry. They understood that a free state relies on the ability of its citizens to defend themselves. The Second Amendment ensures the right of individuals to defend themselves, their families, and their property. This right is fundamental to personal security and peace of mind. It also serves as a deterrent against tyranny. History has shown that an armed populace can prevent the rise of oppressive regimes. An armed citizenry is a safeguard against government overreach. It acts as a check on those in power, ensuring they do not overstep their bounds. The right to bear arms is not about hunting or sport shooting. While those activities are common, the core of this right is much deeper. It is about freedom and self-reliance. It empowers individuals to take responsibility for their own safety and well-being. It is about ensuring that the people retain the means to defend themselves against any threat. This includes threats both within and from outside the country. The historical context of the Second Amendment underscores its importance. The Founding Fathers were acutely aware of the need for a populace that could defend its freedoms. The Founding Fathers understood the dangers of an unarmed populace. They had witnessed firsthand the consequences of disarmament. They had just fought a war against a tyrannical government. Their experiences shaped their belief in the necessity of a well-armed citizenry to preserve liberty and justice. Opponents of gun rights often draw comparisons between firearm ownership and driving, suggesting that both should be regulated similarly. They point to firearm fatalities as justification for firearm licensing, arguing that just as we have laws to ensure road safety, we should have stringent laws for gun ownership. However, this comparison is misleading and oversimplifies the complexities of both issues. In 2023, there were over 40,000 motor vehicle fatalities in the United States, a staggering number that reflects the inherent risks of driving. On the other side, there were approximately 46,000 firearm-related deaths. This includes all firearm deaths from accidents, self-deletions, gang violence, and murders. This disparity highlights the fallacy of equating gun ownership with driving, as the context and consequences of each are vastly different. Furthermore, the vast majority of gun-related deaths involve handguns, not rifles, which are often the focus of gun control debates. Rifles are used in a very small percentage of gun-related homicides, approximately 500 total deaths, and they receive disproportionate attention in policy discussions. Yet, gun control advocates often target rifles, demonstrating their lack of understanding of firearms and the actual statistics behind gun violence. The comparison between gun ownership and driving is a red herring, a distraction from the core issues at hand. It is a tactic used to divert attention from the real issue, the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms, a fundamental aspect of American liberty and identity. Section 4. The absurdity of firearms regulations applied to vehicles. Imagine applying the same regulations imposed on firearms to vehicles. Would we require a background check to purchase a Chevy truck? Would we mandate a waiting period to buy a custom exhaust? The absurdity of such regulations is self-evident. Yet gun control advocates propose similar restrictions on firearms. These proposals are not about safety. They are about restricting a fundamental right. Requiring licenses or permits to own a firearm is a form of infringement. The Constitution does not grant the government the power to regulate gun ownership in any way. The Founding Fathers would be appalled by the attempts to restrict gun ownership today. They understood that the right to bear arms is essential to a free society. Section 5. Law-abiding citizens, not the root of the problem. Gun control advocates often focus on law-abiding citizens. They propose restrictions that would do little to stop criminals. Criminals, by definition, do not obey the law. They will always find ways to obtain firearms illegally. The focus should be on enforcing existing laws and prosecuting criminals who commit crimes. Instead of targeting responsible gun owners, we should be holding criminals accountable. Blaming law-abiding citizens for the actions of criminals is unjust. It punishes the innocent while doing nothing to stop the guilty. We need solutions that address the root causes of gun violence, not knee-jerk measures that infringe on our rights. Gun ownership is a responsibility, not a privilege. Law-abiding citizens understand this responsibility and take it seriously. Section 6. Safeguarding our rights, the importance of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is more relevant today than ever before. It is a cornerstone of American liberty, providing a crucial check against tyranny and oppression. In an increasingly uncertain world, the ability to defend oneself is paramount. Personal safety and security are fundamental human rights that must be preserved. The Second Amendment ensures that this right is not infringed upon. It stands as a testament to the foresight of our nation's founders. The Founding Fathers understood the importance of a well-armed citizenry. They recognized that an empowered populace is essential for the preservation of freedom and liberty. They knew that a free people must be able to defend themselves against both internal and external threats. This principle remains as vital today as it was over 2 centuries ago. The Second Amendment is not about fear. It is about freedom. It embodies the spirit of independence and self-reliance that defines the American character. It is about ensuring that the people retain the means to protect themselves, their families, and their way of life. This right empowers citizens to take responsibility for their own safety. The right to bear arms is absolute. It is a fundamental right that protects all other rights. Any and all gun restrictions are unconstitutional. The Constitution does not give any government at any level the power to regulate firearms in any way. In conclusion, as of December 2024, estimates suggest there are over 500 million civilian-owned firearms in the United States. If legal gun owners were the problem, you would know it. Any and all firearm restrictions are unconstitutional. What part of shall not be infringed is so hard to understand? According to HorwitzLaw.com, the deadliest vehicle in America is the Chevrolet Silverado, which they cite as the vehicle involved in the most fatal crashes based on their analysis of data. Are we going to start passing laws to limit the fuel capacity of Chevy trucks? Or a $200 tax on a quiet muffler after you get the government's permission? I know. Let's just pass a law saying you cannot drive out of state with a Chevy truck. And we need Chevy truck-free zones. That will help solve this problem. It's essential to remember that knowledge is power. An informed citizenry is the best defense against infringement on our rights. Understanding the facts, questioning the narratives, and standing firm in our beliefs is how we safeguard our freedoms. The Second Amendment is not just a right, it is a responsibility. It is a call to remain vigilant, to protect not just our own liberty, but the liberty of future generations. Thank you for watching. Stay frosty, my friends. Keep your head down and your powder dry.